Squeak! Squeak has a really big problem. His kit absolutely sucks. And you know why Supercell never tried to address this problem? Mainly because of his second gadget for the longest time being one of the strongest in the entire game, being nerfed like 3 times if I'm correct, since it got that slowing effect. And because of this, Supercell never actually fixed Squeak, so today I'm here to change that. And starting off, I feel like one of the biggest things that he needs, a real time reduction. He takes just way too long to get the attack, that is just a reality. He takes 2.1 seconds, that's crazy. So reduce that to 2 seconds, a very tiny reduction, I know. But on top of that, the attack width will be increased from 0.33 to 0.66. In case you don't know what those numbers are tiles. And this pretty much means that it will be twice as easy to actually hit your projectiles. In case you don't know, Squeak projectile size, it's like one of the smallest in the entire game. I think that has the exact same width, has a cold bullet, but the only difference it is because it has a higher projectile speed, it feels like it's easier to land, while in reality it really isn't. So these two first buffs should really help Squeak to actually connect his basic attack and have a lot more area control, because he right now does not have any area control at all. Next, let's talk about his super. So number 1, the damage will be increased from 2000 to 2160. So now it deals the same damage as his basic attack without the first star power. And on top of that, the recharge rate will be increased from 12.5% to 25%. So, number 1. This will make Squeak better in heist. I don't expect him to sit there, but he will be better at regardless. And on top of that, if you just hit 4 bombs of your super, you immediately get another super. This is kinda unrealistic to happen, because we all know that his super is like practically impossible to actually hit. So you should hope to get at least 1 or 2 shots actually from the super. And to actually make the super better in terms of area control, in case you don't know, most of the times you actually want the super to be between 2 walls, because the bombs are so tiny, it's literally impossible to actually hit anything with that by any random chance. So I will actually reduce the travel distance from 6.67 tiles to 4.33 tiles. This, in reality, it's technically a nerf, but practically speaking, it's technically a buff, because if the blobs travel less, that means that the 6 blobs will actually control an actual area in a decent way, because let's be realistic, it's not 6 tiny things in the middle of the map that are gonna do anything at all. So these 2 buffs should make the super a lot better at dealing damage, at recharging itself, because it actually takes a long time to get a super that doesn't really do anything unless you use the second star power, of course. And on top of that, the super now actually has a little bit of area control. With the reduced travel distance, it will be a lot easier to not only hit more than 1 blob, as it also have a way much better area control, because now that the bombs are more concentrated, they actually have an area control at all, which will make the super overall better. Now, just before we move on to the new gadgets or to the reworks, I actually want his HP to be reduced from 7,200 to 6,800. This will make sense after I explain the new gadgets, but Squeak overall has a lot of HP, and I guess that this was to compensate his lack of defensive skills, which clearly did not work at all against hyperchargers. So, with that being said, let's talk about his first gadget. It will still be the same, but now instead of doubling the range, which is just stupid, like why would you out of nowhere want Squeak to have 15 tiles of range? Doesn't make any sense at all, because it does not even increase the projectile speed to actually make easier to hit the attack, like for example Mandy's first star power, which makes a lot of sense. So it would actually change the range of the attack to be doubled, to the radius of the explosion to be increased by 50%. These might be a little bit tricky to understand, But imagine like if out of nowhere your bomb was almost as big as a Jackie super. That's pretty much where this is going. I think that he has like just 10% less radius if I am correct. So yeah, it will be a really massive bomb, but it will also deal 50% bonus damage, which will actually make easier to land the 50% bonus damage. I feel like the first gadget doesn't have really any use besides the bonus damage with the first power, which can be really good. Other than that, it's just unrealistically, it's not. How can you even think that you're gonna hit that? Like, that's my question. Who just out of nowhere clicks on a gadget and thinks, hey, I'm gonna snipe someone? It does not make any sense at all. This gadget, it's just not good, and hopefully with this tiny rework, it will finally be good at all. Now talking his new second gadget, yes, his second second gadget, may I say, will be completely removed and changed to this new one, which would be Goo Explosion. Squeak pretty much explodes a bomb on himself, and because of that, he pushes all enemies in 2.67 tiles and also slows them down for 1 second. So, in a more simplistic way, it's like Eugene's first gadget, M's first gadget, but instead of healing or dealing damage, it slows the enemy down for 1 second to make it easier for you to land one attack. I feel like in most scenarios this will be the better gadget, but this is only defensive solution. If the enemy does not have any assassin, which is kinda rare nowadays, but still, you might want to use the first gadget. If the enemy has, like, I don't know, an Edgar, use this gadget to push them, and on top of that to slow them. And I am pretty sure that Squeak would appreciate this sort of ability because he does not have any self-defense at all. Like, his kit is the opposite of that. And this is also the reason why I actually nerfed his HP, because with an actual defensive capability, he does not need as much HP. Now let's talk about star powers. For the first star power, I would actually not change a single thing. I feel like the idea of the star power is really fun, the star power is actually strong, and it's overall balanced in my opinion, so I will not change a single thing. The second star power, a different story. So I would just give it a tiny rework and also change its name to Residue. Where did I heard that one before? So number one, your super now leaves an area that slows enemies down. And this is not just where it exploded like the second gadget, this is where it landed and where the blobs traveled. Remember, because of the distance travel nerf of the actual super, this will not cover as much slowing area as you're probably thinking. And on top of that, another of the gadget's problems, the slowing duration, instead of being 2 seconds, it will actually be half a second. So as soon as you leave that area that the super leaves on the floor, you would immediately be not slowed. And on top of that, the area only lasts for 4 seconds. So even if you get maximum value out of this star power, you're only getting like pretty much an extra half a second of slow. But honestly, I feel like with all of the other buffs, I feel like chain reaction would be the better choice. So this overall buff to the star power should make Squeak a lot better and the star power choice a little bit harder as well. I feel like this star power would mainly be for game modes like Jam Grab or Football, because game modes like Strategic Zone or the Heist, they most of the times require like more concentrated damage, and that would be more for the first star power, while the second one is more area control-ish. Now let's talk about a new mythic gear. Honestly, this is probably the weirdest mythic gear I have ever come up with, but I just like it too much to not mention it on this video. Goofy Death. When Squeak dies, he explodes a super. So pretty much, like, we never actually have an ability on Brawl Stars that when something dies, it does something. That's one of the few abilities that we still don't have on this game, and it's actually a fairly simple one. This even used to be like Poco's original first star power a long time ago. So actually I feel like this would be overall pretty good. Like, you die and you would just leave the possibly, if you use the second star power, you would leave that slowing zone and all of that damage. This Mythic Gear would probably be a lot better with the second star power, like for sure, but this Mythic Gear would allow Squeak to just rush into people, and even if he dies, he will just leave that slowing area for his teammates to clean up the mess. Literally. So honestly, this is a very weird idea, but I actually feel like overall it would be a pretty solid Mythic Gear in my opinion. And finally, Squeak needs a hypercharge. Honestly, I feel like Squeak is, even if I gave him so many buffs, I still feel like he would be fairly weak because he just simply does not have a hypercharge. So let's also change that. Overwhelming Mass. Usually, just as a warning, when it comes to hypercharge, I do not like the actual way that they make them. I actually like to just give a lot of abilities and few stat increases. Just a warning. So, start off, 20 reload speed buff and 10 damage buff. And the rate will be 2.85 supers. So your third super is pretty much a hypercharged super all the time. While Squeak is hypercharged, all of his attacks / abilities, which also includes the super even if you don't have the second star power, will slow down enemies for 1 second. And this also includes his first gadget, who already slows down for 1 second. I don't know why I'm talking about this. His super now, it is faster to land. Kinda like how Piper's hypercharge did, like she now landed a lot faster, and the same would be with Squeak's super. Somewhere close to how his super used to be before it got reworked. And on top of that, the size of the bombs will be now the same as his basic attack, and it will leave an additional bomb where the super landed. I wonder where did I saw that before. And on top of that, when you click on the hypercharge button, you immediately explode the super on yourself. Kinda like the Goofy death, but without dying. How great is that? With all of these changes, hypercharged Squeak, when you activate it, you would get that immense defensive capability for a split of second until those bombs exploded. And then all of your attacks could slow down the enemies for you to reach them, to hit them, and to just get a lot of damage. And at the same time, the super, now that would be serious area control and would deal a lot of damage, and with the second star power would have a massive area control. And with all of these changes, I hope that Squeak finally becomes good. If you like this video, please make sure to subscribe. It took a long time to get these ideas, and YouTube is saying that you should watch this video, so do it. Please. I'll see you on the next video.